Well, hello and welcome to another episode of More Perfect Marketing. It's David Baer here, and today we're going to talk about email newsletters specifically. Now, on this show before, we've discussed getting people onto your email list, warming up that relationship on the list, maybe even running a campaign to try to get those subscribers to take a specific action. But we're going to talk about email from a different vantage point. Now, there used to be this approach to getting people on an email list, which is old and staid and tired. And it was something along the lines of on your website, you would have a little sign up form, join my list for updates and, information on what's going on in our business. And as marketers, we used to counsel people, do not do that because there's nothing compelling about updates from your business for the most part. But there is now a resurgence of this newsletter, quote unquote, approach to marketing. And that's what we're going to talk about today. And to help me in this conversation, I'm so very happy to welcome Jennie Wright, who is, by the way, a fellow podcaster. And we'll make sure to let you know where you can hear and see her podcast. But first, we're going to talk about newsletter emails. Jennie, welcome.
Welcome. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
See, you were already in the host seat by saying welcome, weren't you?
I know.
Anyway,
I can't help it, podcaster.
I know it's the fault of being in front of these microphones and just being trained to welcome other people. I think I have done it as a guest as well. All right, I want to talk a little bit about this newsletter situation that we've been seeing over the last couple of years. It's 2022 right now when we're recording this. I've seen a lot more of this sort of general newsletter. Hey, let me get into your inbox and show you interesting stuff and compel people to, sign up for these things. I'd love to get your take on it.
Well, you said it perfectly. It's a resurgence. The newsletter is back as much as I didn't want it to be. I was totally on the camp of sending campaign style emails, but the newsletters are back. Monetized newsletters, non-monetized newsletters, they're replacing some of those Seinfeld sequences, which are daily emails and things like that. We're seeing this resurgence. It's almost like we've gone back to the tactics that worked 7, 5, 6 years ago. Seems to be where we're heading back to. And I think, although I didn't want it to happen because I was really on that other camp, I'm on board because the way that that's being done right now is better than our predecessors. So we've learned from the boring, staid, enter your name and email and get updates on my company to enter your name and email, get some really cool information. And I'm only going to share things that are actually going to help you. And I'm going to make sure that you have what you need to move forward in your journey. There's a difference now. There's a bit more of a caring factor, less of there's a wall between me and my newsletter as a business owner and my recipients. There's the wall has faded. There's a lot more bleed through in terms of that connection that's being created in that conversation.
I think that I've seen exactly what you're describing. And, I have shifted my entire approach to email by promising a little gift to get people on the list, but making it very clear to them from the get-go that they are subscribing to a newsletter, and to entice them, I'm giving a gift. And I think it speaks to one of the things that a lot of the businesses I've worked with over the years have asked me, which is, okay, after I try to get them onto a sales call at the beginning of the email, what do I send them the rest of the time if they don't move forward? And so this may, in fact, address that question.
Yes. And it also plays into the more permission-based marketing that is more prevalent now, which more people are on board with. Again, it falls back on that. Instead of a one-way communication, company talking down towards the recipient or the registrant, now it's more of a talk with and not that talk at. And it creates more of that conversation. And also the onus is on the person writing the newsletter to make sure that there's enough value and enough entertainment in whichever way your recipients want to receive that entertainment, so that you can get them into your ecosystem and keep them there. You know, we know that our inboxes are flooded, even more so, like I think 100 times over from like 5-6 years ago. We still have to have that relevancy, and we still need to keep those people interested. It's a lot easier than it used to be to hit that unsubscribe button. We also do it with a lot less discrimination now. We will hit the unsubscribe button for the simplest and the smallest thing. So we have to make sure that the newsletters that are being created are at a much higher level. And that, I think that's really just raised the bar. And as a result, we're getting a lot better content, and we're seeing a lot more ingenuity and a lot more interest in what people are being able to create. You get a lot less of that barrier, that language. It's a lot more familiar and deeper contact. What it does make happen is the businesses that are employing this method have to also embrace the fact that they're going to have to create relevant non-newsletter content that then can support the content that's in that newsletter. So brick and mortar online business doesn't matter. You know, it's having a YouTube channel, or it's having a relevant presence on social media. It's creating good content. It's having a spokesperson do speaking gigs, etc. Whatever it is, so that there's relevant content that you're going to be able to share in that newsletter, because it's going to get stale real quick if all you're doing is saying it's 10% off of my XYZ product every single week.
Okay, I want to dig into this point that you've just made in more detail, but before we get to that, I wonder if you can help help our listeners understand sort of the difference between a term you used earlier and the newsletters that we're talking about now. So you said that it's sort of an alternative to campaign-based emails. So can
Yeah,
you sort of explain the difference?
absolutely. Campaign-based emails are around and supporting an event, an offer, a product launch, a sale. It's around something. Your Black Friday sale is an example. Campaign style emails, you'll have 6, 7, however many emails that would surround that campaign, whatever that's going to be, and they're specific. They don't talk about what's going on in the business. They don't have non-campaign specific information in them. The whole goal is to get people to the sales page, the landing page, the sales video, whatever it is, and have people take action. What that doesn't do is it doesn't increase the connection, the authority, the two-way conversation that newsletters do. And there's nothing wrong with having campaign style emails. You will always have them if you have a business that sells a product. And you should have campaign style emails surrounding the different launches that you have in your business. But what the problem that I see with a lot of people, is they only do campaign style emails. They don't do the newsletter informational content. And the result is that their audience is like, oh, I just got another email from Megan so-and-so, and they're selling something again. Like every time I get an email from this person, it's always sales. It's never helping me. It's never giving me something that's going to help me on my journey. You're always just trying to sell me something. Even if it's not yours, if you're an affiliate for somebody else's stuff, that's what they're seeing. I literally just had this conversation with a client about 36 hours ago, where the last time they had emailed their list was 6 weeks ago, pardon me.
Well, either way, that's too long, whether it's
It is
weeks
way
or
too long.
months.
And they had sent an email out 6 weeks ago, and it was a campaign style email then. And then they just sent another campaign style email 6 weeks later, which was, past 36 hours ago. And their question to me was, I sent this email, Jennie, and it's crickets. Nobody bought my thing. Nobody told me nobody hit reply. The only thing I got out of it was unsubscribes. What's wrong with my list? It's not your list. It's what you've done to them and how you've interacted. So it's so important. And I think it's so crucial that with your campaign style emails, you fill the gap in between with relevant, great content in that newsletter style.
Okay, so now we have a sense of those campaign-based emails, and you started to talk about one version of a newsletter, which you said, it's important to have other content to support the newsletter so that you can point over to YouTube or point to your blog or point
Mhm,
to a social media post and get them doing stuff, I guess.
mhm.
That's the point of it.
It is.
But I I think in my observing sort of the newsletter craze that's going on right now, that's
Yeah.
just one example of what I've seen. And so I wonder if you can sort of help me understand how broad newsletters can go. So I'm thinking first about, the type of newsletter that we've just described here.
Mhm.
I've seen newsletters where there's curation of
Yes.
stuff that may not even be your own stuff. It could be, "Hey, I read a bunch of really interesting articles this week, and
Mhm,
I wanted to share the top 5 that I encountered."
mhm,
Or Ben Settle type emails where it's a provocative rant each day,
mhm.
and he encourages, engagement sometimes by complaining about other subscribers on his list or things like that, but he only has ever one call to action in each email, which is go buy this thing that I happen to be promoting at this moment.
Yeah.
But I still think that there's sort of newsworthy interesting information in there, or I think he calls it edutainment. So I think all of these sort of fall under the newsletter umbrella, or don't they?
Yes, they do. If it's informative, helps educate, and helps people along in whatever journey they're on in your business ecosphere, then it's a newsletter. It's a helpful thing. I love myself having several different components. I'll have an introduction in mind, and then I will tell people like, this is the latest podcast episode though, but now I don't just say, check out the latest podcast episode. It's kind of boring. What I'll do is I'll start with a little story on it. I'll just be like, hey, have you ever thought about running an online summit and how that could help your business? Let me tell you a little bit about Kathy. Talk a little bit about Kathy. Well, we talk about this in this week's podcast. Check it out, linked podcast. The blog that I also put into my newsletter each week is something either completely contrary, a little bit out there sometimes, or completely supportive of what I talked about the podcast. It doesn't really matter. I just think it should be just really good content. I put that in there as well. Also, because I appear on a lot of podcasts, and I'm also usually promoting something that is happening with either somebody that I'm helping or supporting, like one of my clients one of their things just launched. I may mention it in the newsletter. I don't always, but I may mention it. Just saying, hey, if you want to check out something really cool and see how this online challenges work, or if you want to see how this ABC strategy that I talked about in my intro actually goes into play, check it out. One of my clients is actually doing it right now, and you can see it happening like live in real time. My clients love that. Like my list loves that. Oh,
Mhm.
you mean I can go check out the thing that you just told me to do? Yeah, no problem. I'll go. I try and teach, inform, help, support everybody. And here's the crux. Everybody learns in a different way. Some people like to listen, some people like to watch, some people like to read, some people like to download. I try and make sure there's a smattering of all those different ways of learning and connecting in the newsletter so that I'm hitting all those little different target audiences.
Okay. As I was listening to you talk about this, you were talking about sort of the connection or the through thread
Mm-hmm,
in a newsletter. So,
mm-hmm,
hey, I'm going to teach you about something. By the way, if you'd like to see it in action, go click here.
mm-hmm.
Or if you'd like to sign up for a thing that is related to this, or you want to go listen to the podcast episode, etc. Is it okay? I've often counseled people in the other type of email, the sequence or the we're selling something or trying to get you to do something type of email, to just have one focus, one
Call
call
to
to
action.
action. In a
Yes.
newsletter, is it okay to break that rule?
Yes and no. I believe you can break those. So it depends on your audience. I'll give you an example. Another form of a newsletter, which we were talking about the different types. One of my clients can't write. They just don't like to write. It's not their forte. So each week they record a video. It's about 6 to 7 minutes long. They post it on their Facebook page. And in the newsletter, they just say, hey, the new video is up. Check it out. It's 3 things you can do today to help nurture your menopausal skin. It's a thing for that. So there's nothing else in that newsletter, one call to action.
Mhm.
And that's what their audience prefers. My audience based on my testing is okay with multiple calls to action. The rule of thumb is testing. So if you start creating newsletters and you have one call to action, go check out this thing, and you're getting lots of clicks, lots of opens, a lot of interaction and stuff like that, test, see if you can add a different, like an additional CTA, see what happens. Your email list is a living, breathing thing. It is full of people with opinions and ideas and ways they like to do things, and they all have a different way they like to take their coffee in the morning. They have a different way they like to interpret information. See what works, test. If you start using newsletters and you're putting more than one call to action and people are clicking on nothing because you overwhelm them, pull it back, do one thing, see what happens again, right? So it's all about testing and figuring it out and finding out what's good for your audience. I used to make the mistake of sending emails that were a little bit more formal sounding. My audience is very much into the, relaxed, super non-formal language, emojis, saying wanna instead of want to, like contractions and things like that. They're totally cool with it. So that's how I speak on like coaching calls. They want that, that almost that vernacular of how I speak. So I put it in my emails. If I used to have somebody else try and write emails for me, my list was like, who the heck is this? And they started unsubscribing and stopped listening. So I went back to writing them myself, right? So there's a lot of testing that needs to be done. You got to find that voice and you got to find the right thing, not one thing. Like these rules of only one CTA or two CTAs or only send on Tuesdays, never send after 5, never on a weekend. All that stuff is actual BS. You have to test it for your audience and see what's going to work and also what works for you, and then go with it.
I so appreciate that you brought that up because it is the answer that I often would want to give, when somebody asks me, should I do this or this? And my answer starts with, well, it depends. And then there's a long, a long conversation about all of these different factors. And so I think the point of testing is something that I want to reinforce, but it begs the follow-up, right? How do you test these things? How long do you test these things? What are you looking for? So just to give you a means by which to answer that, I'll give you the situation that I'm currently in with my emails, right? So for a long time, I have followed I'm just talking about one thing and I am going to give multiple links in an email, but they're all going to the same place and it's just different ways to have the call to action. And in the past several months, I have been doing the approach that I have seen with a lot of newsletters recently, which is the what I'll refer to as the Dean Jackson, um, I don't know what you call it, super signature, which is here's a bunch of information and there's no links in any of it, and oh, by the way, if I can help you, here's one of, 4 or 5 different ways that I can be of assistance, and then a series of links. And so I have seen results and so I know the answer, but if I'm testing this, for the first time, how would you sort of guide me through what I should be looking for, how long I should do it, et cetera?
Great question. There's a few ways that if we were just looking at this and you had never tested it before, that I would tell you to do. One, I would tell you that we need a 3-week window. So 3 instances, at least. I'd like more data. I'm a data person. The more data points I can get, the better we are, but I'll take a minimum of 3 weeks of information. In that 3 weeks of information, I want to see open rates, click-through rates, unsubscribe rates, etc. I also want background information. So the previous emails that you said for a while, I want to see all that too, all of that data. Then we compare it to the new data. What's happening since we made this change, right? One email is never enough data, by the way, ever. We need more to see what's happening. You're saying that what you've done and what you've tested is working, meaning you're getting clicks on those, those Dean Jackson, that whole super signature. You're getting clicks in that super signature. You're getting people to take action, which is great. It's showing that it works. The testing that I would say that you would do beforehand is exactly what I said, but now that you've done the signature, the super signature, now I would start playing with the placement. Right.
Okay.
So you might be right now saying, hey, I have this resource for you. It's free. I have this resource for you. It's free. And you may be burying the fact that you have a $27 product down there. Try flipping it, putting the paid product at the top or the paid call or whatever it is higher up, right? Because naturally, the way we work as human beings is we will do here's the little nice thing, the free thing, the less, the less thing that's going to take more effort from you thing, and you build. We tend to do that naturally in our stuff. Flip the script, make it so that the first thing is the harder, stronger, faster, paid product or paid call or 45-minute discovery call, whatever it is. Try that and see what works, see what happens, right? That's going to get some really good data, because now all of a sudden, if you've pulled that product higher, if you have one, you've pulled it to the top, now you're going to see what people are doing, how they're reacting, and you can make even more finer adjustments. I love making fine adjustments in emails. Whoa. I'm so detailed in this that I changed my my intro, my salutation, my greeting. It used to be hi, first name. Now it's hey there, first name, because data started to show that I had more reads, right? All of the email marketing providers out there give you tons of data. Use it, look at all the reports, right? Look at how long people open the email for, how long they have it open for, all of that data. Look at all of it. Dive into the where they are in the world, what are they reading it on, what browser, everything. Look at all of it. It is so amazing when you start looking at that stuff. By the way, the majority of people read emails on their phone. They look at it on the mobile device. If they really, really like it, they'll go back and open it on their desktop, especially if there's something of interest.
Yeah. Oh, I appreciate that. As you were talking about the super signature and the free thing is human nature to put first, I had to like go and look at mine to see what it was. And it's 4 items or 5 items, paid, free resources. And then somebody who might benefit from this newsletter, here's where to send them. So I'm doing the
Good for
opposite.
you.
I wonder if maybe I should test the opposite and see what happens if I get more referrals.
You might. Maybe try changing that up. The other thing that might work, right? And this is something that not everybody does, is depending on the style of email that you're writing, people love GIFs, however you prefer to pronounce it. They love to see a GIF before they have to scroll. So it's, hey, first name, first intro paragraph, GIF, relevant information after that. For whatever reason, that keeps people scrolling. It's strange, right? But it's something that I've tested and it actually really, really works. Even if you make a GIF of yourself, like if you make a GIF of yourself with like a little board and it says, hey, or, check this out or whatever, and you like do the wavy thing or the hands uppy thing and you make a GIF out of it, which by the way, there's free GIF makers all over the internet.
Yeah.
That works too.
I have actually done that, but I was thinking as soon as you said, include a GIF or a GIF. What about those newsletters that are more serious in tone and the audience appreciates the sort of more formal tone? Is it still appropriate?
Yes, and right. So I come from the improv background where it's yes, and it's, I don't want to say no. It is appropriate in certain situations. So if you're doing a more formalized newsletter, but this particular one is making fun of something, or it's lighthearted, or it's surrounding a holiday or an event, do it. Throw it in, because it's a little bit of a disruption. And creating a bit of a pattern disrupt in newsletters is also essential. If your newsletter is so formatted that it is intro, this, and you have like those breakers that everybody puts in their newsletter, like where to find me, read this, watch this. If it's always patterned, you create snow blindness, right? So you make it so that people will eventually stop paying attention, changing it up, right? If you take a look at the newsletters from companies like Apple, if you take a, like, what's the one? Oh my gosh, my favorite boots come from this company. It starts with it, Solomon. If you take a look at newsletters from Solomon, if you take a look at the newsletters from Brooks, things like that, like these kinds of companies, they change it up. It's all over the place. Graphics at the top, no graphics at all. Copy here, video insert here, right? So it's a pattern interrupt that keeps things fresh. And the more formalized companies need to import that. I'm working with a company right now. They're a health company that's developing a health app, and their newsletters are very staid. and we're changing it because their open rates have gone down, their click-through rates are, they're dropping. And I'm like, okay, we need to like change it all up. Let's take out all these formalized pictures, no colored backgrounds, like none of that stuff. Get it back to basics, change up the look and feel, increase the font size, by the way, increase the font size on your newsletters. Should be anywhere between 15 and 16 points. Anything lower than that, especially if your audience is between 35 and up, you're causing problems because they can't read it without putting on their glasses. And if they can't put on their glasses quickly to read it, they're not reading it. Right? 15 to 16 point.
Yep.
But gotta change these things up so that there's that pattern interruption and create enough interest in what people are doing.
Okay. I want to shift a little bit because as you know, and our regular listeners know, I like talking about strategy here. And we've been talking about sort of strategic use of email, but
Yes.
I want to broaden the topic a little bit in terms of knowing, where this email mechanism in marketing really plays a role for most businesses. And the newsletter is quite different in one respect from those campaign style email sequences that we were talking about earlier. But I'm wondering if a business is still trying to extract some form of action and they're focusing on newsletters. How do you get people to take the sort of actions around an offer or a sale or promotion, or do you stop doing the newsletter and move over to the campaign and then return to the newsletter? What's the right approach?
There are several. And one of the things that you didn't mention, which is essential, is a nurture sequence. So when somebody registers to receive your newsletter, there should be a nurture sequence, which is set up. And a nurture sequence, for people who may not understand what that is a series of emails, usually approximately about 5. I've done so many as high as 11, sometimes even as high as 30 emails that are spread out in an automation. They come out on a regular basis. Their job is indoctrination. It is to first let people know what to expect just because they've registered. My first email in a nurture sequence is always, hey, I'm David. I'm the CEO of X. I'm also the podcast, I'm also the podcast host of X. You can go check that out here, but here's what to expect now that you're on my newsletter. I'm only going to send you relevant information about the exact thing that you wanted, never anything else. I'm not going to, I'm going to be here once a week. I'm going to be blah, blah, blah. Like you give them basically the download of how you're going to support them. That takes away some of the mental load of what am I going to get from this guy? Is he going to bombard me? Like, am I just going to get sales email after sales email? Am I going to get, I had one guy I signed up for his newsletter. From that day on, I got 2 emails a day, sales heavy. Like, if you tell me that's what you're going to do, cool. But if I don't know that's going to happen and I start getting 2 emails a day and they're all sales heavy, I'm out, like I'm done. So set up the parameters, set up expectations. Your nurture sequence does the heavy lifting of getting people to understand who you are and what you represent. Your newsletters are meant to convey timely things that are happening. I'm doing this, the company's doing this. We just shifted something in our, we just acquired this new company. We're bringing on 5 new blah, 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 like that kind of stuff, right? Depending on the company. And the campaign style are meant to sell. So you've got 3 distinctive things. Can you commingle? Yes, absolutely. Do you need all 3? Absolutely as well. If it's only on the newsletter side, you can break all the rules you want because it's your newsletter. There are no rules. You can set it up exactly how you want, test it, and make adjustments. Does that make sense?
Totally. And the sort of the onboarding or the indoctrination part, I think, is essential. I remember signing up not too long ago. I've been since this resurgence of newsletters, watching what other people are doing and wanting to get a sense of, can they educate and inform what I might do? So I've been signing up for a lot of them, and it's shocking how there are so very many out there that have nothing to set expectations. There might be a confirmation, please click to confirm, double opt-in kind of confirmation email. There might be, some initial email, but there's no sequence, right? So thanks for subscribing to the newsletter. I'll be emailing you every Tuesday. Look for me then, right?
Mhm,
And perhaps that's, the minimum necessary,
mhm,
but there isn't really a lot of let's get to know, each other,
mhm,
or any of the things that you've talked about in a larger sense.
mhm,
So I really appreciate you pointing that out, and then making a distinct, uh, sort of pointing out the difference between the newsletter and the promotional pieces, and how they can overlap, but that there's a necessity for making it clear that one might occasionally come in a different format or a
mhm.
different time, or something, is really helpful to understand.
Good. I'm glad. There's this email thing isn't so formulaic that you have to worry about things. What is formulaic is what you're going to achieve from the testing. I believe in testing. I believe in surveys. I believe in asking my people for what they want and then delivering it. There's nothing wrong with sending an email saying, hey, I'm just, you know, uh, for the new year, I want to test out a new strategy with the emails that we're sending out. Would you mind answering 2 really simple questions or 3 really easy questions? Click here if you don't mind. And having a 3-question survey. What kind of information do you want to hear from? Drop down, drop down, drop, like, radio button, whatever. What do you want to hear about? And then creating segmentation in your list. And that's something we didn't even talk about today. If you can create deeper segmentation in your list, where a quarter of your list wants to hear about widgets and the other quarter of your list wants to hear about something completely different, maybe it's strategy or tactics, then you can start creating, like, the newsletter email is still quite generic and goes to everybody, but the tactical, more campaign styled emails go towards the people who've self-identified that they want the certain thing. That makes your campaign style emails incredibly strategic, incredibly tactical, because now you're only speaking to the people who want the widgets and not to the people who want the other thing, because they don't want it. So creating deeper segmentation through your newsletter, great strategy, something everybody should be doing. And also, you can use your nurture sequence to create that segmentation. You can, if people click on link A to the blog all about whatever, then you can tag that person in your email marketing saying, click link about blog A, right? Now you know that they're interested to hear about whatever that topic was. And you can email them specifically. Segmentation blows, like, it takes everything that we just talked about for the past, I don't know, 30 some odd minutes. It takes everything to the next level and allows for a much deeper way of connecting and conversing with your list.
I think I want to hasten to add, if somebody is new to this subject listening to us right now,
Yeah.
and you type into Google, email newsletter software,
Mhm.
there are going to be a bunch of things that will pop up, like Substack, for example, and other
Yes.
competitors like that, which are not able to do the type of segmentation or
No,
promotional
exactly.
pieces that you've just talked about. That this is really the domain of email marketing software or automation tools.
Yes, I agree. And if you have one thing, if you have one widget and you only talk about the one widget, then you can use Substack. You can talk about that one thing and not require additional segmentation. But a lot of businesses have different things, right? Some people might have different products, some might have programs, and some might also have services. And that's where you want to be more in alignment. I only want to hear from certain companies about certain things. I only want to hear about hiking clothing and hiking boots. I don't want to hear about, I don't know, whatever. Making that specificity when you have more than one, I guess, sub niche within your grander niche, that's where the segmentation can come in. And that's where you need to use programs like ActiveCampaign, right? Or even if you can use something like MailChimp, but I find segmentation in MailChimp to be a pain in the butt. So I struggle with it. But I prefer to use something like ActiveCampaign that allows me to create that deeper segmentation, the deeper, tagging and that differentiation between my different audiences, and allows me to speak to people in that way. That's what I prefer. I also love and encourage people for their email marketing to create opting out and not unsubscribing. That's different. Opting out is opting out to receive emails. Hey, if you don't want to continue receiving our newsletter, but you want to stay on our mailing list to receive promotions, information about the stuff that we have coming out, especially our launch on ABC that's coming out in January 2023, click here, right? Want to receive less emails from David? Click here. Only want to hear from David about funnels? Click here. That kind of stuff. You can create that opting out, but they maintain on your list. And all you have to do is, create a tag that says like opted out of, still wants to receive promotional emails. And now you're not pissing off the people that are on your list, and you're going to get less unsubscribes.
Yeah, no, I have seen that, and I have taken advantage of that a few times when I am not interested in a particular promotion, but I'm
Yeah,
interested in continuing to hear from them on other subjects. So,
absolutely.
great advice. Hey, listen, we are nearly out of time, and I want to make sure that before we wrap up, folks can know a little bit more about. Clearly, you are an expert in email, but that's only a fraction of what you specialize in. You want to share a little bit about the work that you do?
Absolutely. Thanks for that opportunity. So obviously email marketing is something that I do quite often, but it is just one facet. I am a strategist. I am a list build expert. I'm a funnel builder. I'm a tactical marketing person. So anything that comes with building out a program, product, service, launching that service and getting more sales falls within what I love doing. Been doing it for 10 years. This is something I just really enjoy. And I get to work with people from all different levels, from beginners up to the 6 and 7 figure mark, all those types of people in between, just trying to get the scale, the growth, the amplification of what they're doing in their businesses.
So, if any of our listeners are interested in finding you and perhaps seeing how you build your list, where
Mhm.
should we send them?
Well, at the time that we're recording this, my website is probably the best place, although please do excuse how it looks. We are in development. My partner and I are in development of creating a bigger, better, beautiful website, which will be out for 2023. So enjoy this less beautiful one for now, but it is jennywright.com. That's Jennie with an IE, wright.com. And you can find me there. Also, you'll be able to see the ways that I show people how to list build. And yeah, you'll see an opportunity to join my newsletter. So go ahead and do that. I'm also available on all the social channels, pretty findable. Jennie with an IE, just come find me there and connect with me. Send me a message. Happy to help people.
Fantastic. We'll make sure to leave all of your social links in the show notes, as well as a link to your website. And listeners, if you are listening in 2023 or beyond, you can find the old version of the site on the Wayback Machine, I'm sure. And
Oh,
if
please don't. It is so bad. It is so bad. But when you're working on other people's businesses, it's like the cobbler's shoes, or in my case, the mechanic's kid. Like you mechanic kids have like the worst cars, the cars with like no bottoms. I literally had a Honda Civic with like a hole in it. I could put my feet out and run like the Flintstones, and I was a mechanic's kid. So it's always the it's the last thing you do. It's the last thing you work on is your own stuff, because you're always working on somebody else's, but it will be nice, I promise.
you also have higher standards, and a lot of people are going to go to that site and just say, "What the heck is she talking about? This is awesome."
Probably.
So either way, when you do visit the site, please make sure to connect with Jennie. And I am so appreciative of the fact that you took time to connect with me and to share a little bit of your insights with our listeners as well.
Absolutely. It's been a privilege to have this conversation, David. I'm so excited that we got to talk, and also to know that we were both stage managers in a different life. So it was cool too.
Exactly.
Thanks
Awesome.
so much.
Jennie, thanks for joining me. And folks, if you know somebody who could benefit from listening to the conversation you've just heard, please, by all means, pass along this episode. This is David Baer, and you have been listening to More Perfect Marketing. Hope to see you back here again real soon. Take care.